Hey everybody, and welcome to a recap of Pluribus Season 1. This quirky sci-fi show was created by Vince Gilligan, that's the same guy who made Breaking Bad, and it follows Carol Sturka, an author whose life is turned upside down when the entire planet becomes infected with a strange virus. Now, if you guys like this video, feel free to drop us a like or share it with a friend, but for now, let's just jump right into the recap, starting with Episode 1, We is Us. One fateful night, researchers pick up a radio signal in space coming from over 600 light years away, and soon after their discovery, they realize that the message is actually a sequence for a virus. So, over the next few months, scientists attempt to recreate the sequence in a lab, but one night, an infected rat escapes and an outbreak occurs. Acting oddly calm, the affected start working together in a sort of trance, spreading the virus as efficiently as possible through their saliva. A few days later, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, popular romance author and low-key alcoholic Carol Sturka shares a drink with her publicist and partner, Helen. Outside, the pair notice a squad of planes overhead dispersing something into the air, and almost immediately after, everyone around them starts to have seizures, except for Carol. She rushes Helen to a nearby hospital, but everyone there is also affected. Unfortunately, Helen passes away just as everybody in town starts to recover, and they start acting very strangely in unison. Distraught, Carol returns home, and on the TV, she finds a message from the White House personally telling her to call a telephone number. And when she does so, she learns that due to that outbreak, the entire human race has been turned into a seemingly peaceful hive mind, sharing their collective thoughts, skills, and experiences all in one consciousness. In fact, she's talking to them right now. However, Carol and roughly a dozen other people in the world are somehow immune. It's not an alien invasion, it's not some grand conspiracy. No one is really in charge like that. Now, it's just them, the all-powerful collective, and a handful of immunes left to share the planet. Claiming that they only want her to be happy, the hive mind promised to serve Carol's every whim. She just needs to call them up on the phone if she ever needs anything. However, they also make it blatantly clear that they intend to assimilate Carol and the rest of the immunes into the hive mind, and they will not stop until they figure out how to do so.
Rest assured, Carol, we will figure out what makes you different.
Figure it out, why?
So we can fix it. So you can join us.
Episode 2, Pirate Lady. As the hive mind, who we'll refer to as the others, clean up the mess around the world, Carol buries Helen in her backyard, during which she is approached by an other named Zosha, who oversteps a boundary when she mentions Helen. When Carol gets angry, Zosha begins to seize up, as Carol's emotions directly impact the others on a global scale, and her outburst just inadvertently ended many lives. Later, with the burial behind her, Carol asks Zosha to arrange a meeting with the other English-speaking immunes, and so the next day, they hop on a plane to Spain. There, Carol meets 5 other immunes, including the eccentric Kumba Diabate, who invites everybody aboard his newly acquired plane, the Air Force One. In their meeting, Carol suggests creating a cure or finding some sort of solution, but the rest of the group don't seem to mind their new reality. One immune, Kusamayu, even wants to become assimilated herself, and another, Lakshmi, holds a grudge against Carol as her outburst back in Albuquerque caused the death of Lakshmi's assimilated grandfather. Later, during lunch, Zosha claims that the others cannot intentionally end life, no matter how seemingly insignificant. Carol calls her bluff, and Zosha sadly admits that, in the course of humanity's joining into the hive mind, over 866 million people have perished.
How many people died?
886 million.
477,591.
Things only get worse when Carol, very drunkenly, has another outburst of anger, once again resulting in a hive mind seizure. The next morning, Carol wakes up hungover and learns that the rest of the immunes have left except for Kumba, who asks that Zosha be allowed to accompany him back to Las Vegas. Although Carol shows her clear disgust at Kumba's overwhelming affection for the others, she begrudgingly agrees. That is, until Kumba's plane is about to take off, and Carol, refusing to let Zosha go, runs out onto the tarmac and forces the plane to stop. Episode 3. Grenade. On the flight back home, Carol tries to contact the most elusive immune, a man named Menusos who lives in Paraguay, South America. But upon calling him, he demands to be left alone and hangs up. Arriving back home in Albuquerque, Carol discovers that during the night, the others cut off power around town to conserve electricity except for essential facilities. While complaining to the hive mind on the phone, Carol sarcastically requests a hand grenade and is surprised when Zosha actually delivers her one. Drunk and still believing that the hand grenade is fake, Carol pulls the pin and is shocked when it turns out to be real, injuring Zosha in the ensuing explosion.
Be careful with that.
Right, like you would give me a real hand grenade.
Carol, if we may.
Sitting in the hospital as Zosha recovers, Carol chats with another one of the others and struggles to understand why they would actually give her a real grenade. When they state that it's simply because she asked for it, Carol ups the ante, asking if they would ever give her something as destructive as, say, a nuke. Though hesitant, the others explain that, yeah, they would give her a nuke if she really wanted it. Shocked, Carol is left to ponder on the extent of her newfound power. Episode 4. Please, Carol. Arriving back home from the hospital and with a new police car in her possession, Carol writes down what she has learned about the others, hoping to find some truth in the madness. And after a quick conversation with another other, she realizes that they simply cannot lie. Returning to the hospital, Carol bluntly asks Zosha if there is a way to reverse the hive mind and turn people back to normal, but Zosha is surprisingly cagey. So, Carol steals some sodium thiopental from the hospital, a drug that some consider to be a truth serum, and after testing it on herself and proving its power, she returns to the hospital and administers the drug to Zosha. Unfortunately, Zosha has an adverse reaction, and instead of telling her the truth, she suffers a heart attack, while the others struggle to bring her back. Episode 5. Got Milk? Although Zosha survives the heart attack, when Carol wakes up from a nap, she discovers that the others have completely left town. According to a message left on the phone, the others will still abide by her requests, but they simply need a little space away.
Our feelings for you haven't changed, Carol. But after everything that's happened, we just need a little space.
Back home, Carol records a video to the 12 immunes, presenting her theory that there is a way to reverse the joining, and pleads that they all work together. Later, after some wolves get into her garbage, Carol brings the trash into the city, where she finds a surplus of milk cartons from the nearby Duke City dairy facility. Curious, she goes to the dairy facility and there finds suspicious bags of fine powder. In dragging a bag back home, she does a little bit of testing, and in another video to the immunes, she theorizes that the others drink the fluid made from the powder to stay connected. Later, she discovers a barcode on one of the bags and traces it to the Agrojet food facility, where, while searching through the dark building, she discovers something horrifying. Episode 6. HDP. In a video recording, Carol shows the source of her horror. The entire facility is full of shrink-wrapped human body parts.
This whole place is filled with human bodies. That is what this whole plant is being used for.
Meanwhile, Kumba continues to have the time of his life, partying it up in Las Vegas. That is, until Carol shows up and the others leave town. When Carol shares her discovery with Kumba, he confirms that he has received her previous videos, but he already knows the truth. In fact, he shows her an informational video created by the others that explains it all. Since the others cannot end life, plant or animal, they manufacture the substance to survive, which is made up of available food stock, as well as something they call HDP, or human-derived protein, which is obtained from the thousands of people who die every day. Basically, they eat people.
Nearly 100,000 people pass away each day due to natural causes and accidents. Those human remains, which would otherwise go to waste, are our source of HDP. We cherish the memory of these people and appreciate their sacrifice.
Additionally, she learns that the other immunes have been keeping in contact with each other, but they specifically voted against keeping her in the loop. To make matters worse, the next morning, Kumba informs Carol that the others have discovered a way to assimilate the immune, using a tailor-made virus that requires harvesting stem cells, something that they can only do with each immune person's express permission. Of course, Carol calls up the others and tells them that she absolutely does not consent, and then heads back home. Flashing back a few days prior, Manusos receives Carol's first video, and inspired by her call for help, he takes her address from the envelope, packs a bag, and drives off in hopes of finding her. Episode 7. The Gap. Returning to Albuquerque, Carol tries to enjoy herself for a change, letting loose, going golfing, acquiring a new car, and enjoying fancy dinners. Meanwhile, Manusos continues his trek across South America towards the United States, learning some basic English during the car ride by listening to some educational cassettes. After days of travel, he reaches the Darien Gap, an incredibly dangerous section of untamed wilderness that leads into Panama. While the others appear and beg him not to proceed, he refuses their help, burns his car, and continues into the jungle anyways. Unfortunately, during his hike, he slips on a loose rock and is impaled by the bacteria-ridden spikes of a palm tree. Not long after, he passes out from his infected wounds, only for the others to immediately rescue him via helicopter. Back in Albuquerque, Carol realizes just how lonely she is, so she paints a message on the street begging for the others to come back. And not long after, Zosha arrives, and overcome with emotion, Carol breaks down in her arms. Episode 8. Charm Offensive. Waking up in a hospital in Panama, Manusos discovers that he has been healed by the others, and he immediately leaves in an ambulance. In Albuquerque, Carol and Zosha spend some time together, and the others decide to move back into the city. One night, while using a telescope, Zosha explains that that initial radio signal came from a planet called Kepler 22b, and while the others still don't fully understand the reasoning behind the joining, they're planning to build a giant antenna to relay the signal back out into space as a way to spread their gift. After a few more days of pleasantry, Carol confronts Zosha, suspecting that the others are intentionally distracting her from pursuing a way to reverse the joining. In response, Zosha kisses her, and they have an intimate night together. The next morning, Zosha ominously tells Carol that she should expect a visitor soon, as meanwhile, Manusos approaches the United States border. Episode 9. La Chica o el Mundo. In Peru, Kusamayu finally gets her wish, as the others present her with her personalized virus, and she willingly imbibes it, joining the hive mind with joy. Meanwhile, back in Albuquerque, Manusos finally arrives at Carol's house, and using a translation app on her phone, they finally have a conversation. While Manusos states his plan to destroy the others, seeing them as non-human, Carol surprisingly defends them.
They're still human beings.
They are no human.
Yes, they are. They are. They're human.
For the time being, Menuso shacks up in a house in Carol's neighborhood, and later that night, he triggers a hive mind seizure while experimenting with a specific radio frequency that he believes might be able to help reverse the joining. When Carol discovers this, she threatens him with a gun and forces him to stop, then leaves town with Zosha and the rest of the others, clearly favoring her relationship with Zosha over potentially saving the world as she once had hoped. Over the next couple of weeks, Carol and Zosha travel the world together, enjoying their time together as a happy couple. But one afternoon, while staying at a lodge in the mountains, Zosha admits that they found a way to obtain Carol's stem cells by using her cryogenically frozen ovarian eggs, which she had preserved years ago with Helen. Worse yet, her custom assimilation virus could be ready within a month or two. Feeling betrayed and realizing what this means, Carol returns to Albuquerque by helicopter along with a massive metal container. Reuniting with Menusos, she tells him that she's ready to save the world, and when he asks her what's in the container, she casually admits that it's a nuclear bomb. And that does it for Pluribus Season 1. This show has been such a weird roller coaster ride. It's like part invasion of the body snatchers, part apocalyptic drama, and with so many good characters in between, I'm very intrigued to see what Season 2 holds. But what did you guys think? Sound off in the comments and let us know. Of course, we'll have a recap of that new season ready whenever it drops, so be sure to subscribe to our channel so you're always up to date on all of our latest content. We'll be back soon with another recap or video on your favorite entertainment, but as always, thanks for watching.